Hey, I'm Gary from Hoops and Cards, and you're listening to the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Content Network. Be sure to subscribe to all of our podcasts, including Sports Card Strategy, Football Card Quest, and my show, Hoops and Cards. We're helping you make money to fund your PC and enjoy the hobby because there is no off-season.
What's going on, everybody? Paul Hickey here with NoOffSeason.com. You are consuming the Sports Card Strategy Show, brought to you by Graybo's Sports Cards. Graybo's Sports Cards is a local hobby shop owned by Gray Barnett, Ryan Fitz, and Duke Denny One-Time Dodson, and is located in the Arts District in Richmond, Virginia. Graybo's sports the best selection of raw and graded singles in the Mid-Atlantic and a wide variety of wax. Graybo's breaks on Whatnot and or Drip 5 nights a week. Listeners of Sports Card Strategy can receive a 10% discount from Graybo's on Drip, Whatnot, or their website at graybos.co by entering the code STRATEGY2023. You can follow all of Graybo's news and updates on Instagram at Graybos_cards. Don't forget to go premium at nooffseason.com. Get your free 30-day trial today to help you build your sports card investment portfolio. We have just launched Sports Card School at nooffseason.com. Check it out at sportscardschool.com. All of the data we use on the Sports Card Strategy Show is from Market Movers. Get a free 14-day trial followed by 20% off for life by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON at marketmoversapp.com today. All right, you're about to enter a Wednesday deep dive with Kendall the Lefty McKee and Connor Barnett, head of content at nooffseason.com. Lefty and Connor, take it away.
What's up, everyone? Connor Barnett here, head of content at nooffseason.com. You're back listening to another Wednesday morning sports card strategy deep dive. Myself and Lefty McKee hosting this morning. We got some good stuff ready to roll for you guys. Lefty, how we doing?
Let's go diving, baby. We love this stuff. We love going into the nitty-gritty of what we're doing in sports cards. We're talking about a bunch of different sports on my end today. And as you guys know, Bowman released last night officially, or yesterday officially, and we are having a good time chasing some of that stuff and are looking forward to our Monday episode where we cover Bowman specifically. But today, Connor, we're diving deep.
Yes, sir, we are. We got some good segments as usual. Portfolio building, path to profit, investor fade, our 1K budget builder, winner of the week, and then audience QA. So as you guys have questions on the show, be sure to drop them in the live chat. We will do our best to get to as many as possible at the end of the show. Lefty, let's go ahead and kick things off with a little bit of portfolio building. I'm excited for this segment today because there's been a lot of changes that you got going on. A lot of movement. So real quick, I know you've got a lot of different things going on. Just give an overall breakdown of the plays that you're making, the guys you're picking up, and talk about where they fit in your portfolio and where they kind of sit in the categories we discussed, being flyer, hero, and GOAT.
Yeah, man, I think I've got some portfolio building. We talked about this week on the Monday show how the actual pickups that I've been making in terms of Shohei, or I did make a CJ Stroud play earlier this month. We've talked extensively about what I'm doing with Immanuel Quickley, and we're going to talk about that again as well today. But what I'm saying is I just cannot believe. Now I'll break this down further in a couple of days. But I cannot believe how cheap Wyatt Langford Bowman Chrome autos came out of the gate at. I thought for sure they would be around $300-$400, and the first one hit the market on auction went for $250. I mean, I think that's a smash deal. I expect those comps to go higher, especially once people start ranking him and people start realizing, oh, he's probably the number one quickest to the majors out of the top 5 from last year's MLB draft. I think he is a hero right now. I think he is going to just slot in Here's a little teaser. He's going to come into our top 5 Bowman card investments, even at his current prices. It's right on our list of things he's going to slot right into the Jackson Churio, James Wood, Jackson Holiday, like portfolio place on what we do here at the Sports Card Strategy Show and nooffseason.com ranking system. So I think this card is in a great spot of where you could be looking for it, especially right out of the gate, which is something that we have not done previously. We will break that down on Monday, but I'm expected to add some of those to my portfolio this week. I expected it to come out again around $400, and we talk about price comps and dates, but we're going to get that data to you on Monday's show. CJ Stroud card update. I have been adding CJ Stroud to my portfolio against Paul's better judgment. He was like, you should not be adding Stroud cards right now. And I agree for the most part. And so what I did was I went out and bought this 470-yard, 5-touchdown card that we've been talking about. It's a Topps Now card that came encased, and I paid $10 a card for it. I'm at $200 invested in these 20 cards. And as I opened them up the other day, I popped a out of 199 hit that's selling around $80 to $100 right now. And I will likely hold that for a Texans further run. So I have 19 that I'm going to sell right away. But as I noticed, some of the cards are a little dinged up. I'm upset about that. I was going to send some of them off to grading. And I also did not expect them to be fat boys, Connor. Like, these are not the regular run-of-the-mill, thin cards, but they're some big boys. So they are encased. They look like this. This is my out of 199 card, CJ Stroud. So the play I have here with this, I believe that he is a flyer right now. I believe he's very close to being to the degree of a hero, but I believe he is a flyer right now. This out of 199 will cover a lot of the costs of my investment in these 20 cards, so I believe I will make money on this. I'm going to hold for a Texans potential playoff run. My sell marker here is if the Texans sneak into the playoffs, then I'll sell before the wild card game. What we talked about the past couple of weeks is selling on auction 7 days before the first game starts. So, like, if they're in the wild card game, or if they end up getting the division from the Jaguars, before they get them from that, whatever game they end up going into in the playoffs, if they make it, which I believe they will, I am going to put markers out or put auctions out 7 days prior to when that game starts. I'm going to sell, I would assume I sell all 19 of the other Topps Now cards, and then just hold this one out of 199 so that I can get most of my money back, and then hold this for the premium best sell opportunity when the Texans, or when CJ Stroud does something terrific, which he will, because he's a great quarterback.
Real quick, Lefty, that's a great point right there that I wanted to bring up with the kind of lot that you have of CJ Stroud now. I like the play that you're making of moving the less valuable cards just to, like you said, get your money back, and then you have the cash flow to move into other stuff, and then you can kind of hang tight with that was it out of 99 or 199 card?
199.
Yeah, out of 199 card, you can kind of wait for your sell marker there, because you've already got your upfront capital back by moving those more base cards there. So I love what you're doing there. Sorry to cut you off, but thought it was a good point, so keep rolling.
Yeah, I think it's all about bankroll, right? I like CJ Stroud, but we're talking about this CJ Stroud card looks like money to me. It doesn't look like an awesome CJ Stroud card. We've got to see it as that. So what I'm going to do is I did the play. I want to get back out of it as much as I can, and I got a lifeline here by getting an out of 199 that I believe will sell for more in the future. So, because I think that it will sell more in the future, I think these other cards are just gravy for me. So I can send them in, or I can not send them in. I can post them as 7 days prior to the first playoff game and get my investment back. These are selling for around maybe like $3 to $5 more than what I bought them for. So, I mean, it's not like the best play I've ever made, but I think this out of 199 will save me. Plus, I think that now is not the time to be selling CJ Stroud. I mean, he just had like the worst game of the year for him. He played pretty terrible against the Jets, and I think it was just a blip on the radar. I don't think it is the overall experience of what we see with him. So I am okay with risking in this area. I mean, part of what we do at the Sports Card Strategy Show and the nooffseason.com is you have the three of us analysts risking into plays that we believe in, but at the same time, like, we are documenting what we're doing, whether it's a win or a loss, and so we have several different markers for success, and we have our own little what's the word that Paul uses when he's the Sports Card Strategy School. Shoot, I just fumbled my words. Anyway, we have different objectives that we're trying to do before we put a play together.
Guidelines.
Guidelines. Yes, sorry about that. The guidelines that we are doing going forward, we're testing those and we're putting guidelines together to make a strategic play. And I'll say this was a riskier play than I normally make on a CJ Stroud Topps Now card. But I think that this being rookie card shield, I think it's clearly him in a Texans uniform. It's a beautiful card too. I think is not a risk I'll always make, but where CJ Stroud just has this. I'm perplexed on him. Like, when I watch him, I'm like, oh man, that guy is just amazing. So I think there's other people out there that are doing that same thing, and so I'm okay buying into a player who steals the show, for instance, or per example, on the TV. So my next play is I have 50 Wemby cards at SGC. I talked about how I have these at SGC for a reason. I sent all 50 of them to SGC because I want to be first to the market. I will have these on auction hopefully by the week of Christmas. They are at SGC and they're already internally like working on them, and it's 5 to 10 day turnaround, and then they'll ship them back to me. So I did this for a Christmas play. I believe that these auctions will end around he plays on the 23rd and the 26th. And so I believe that those two games around with the NBA also playing on Christmas Day, I think they will obviously talk about Wembanyama on some of the different broadcasts. And so I have these, I have $19 in these invested. And so I'll likely make good flips on these. I expect the 10s to sell around $40 to $50, maybe even higher than that. And if you look on eBay right now, there's not SGC cards, or there's not even graded cards of this specific card. And so I want to be first to the market. Like, I know it's a couple days away, but I keep checking eBay every day. I'm like, okay, there's none left. Okay, there's none on here yet. Okay, there's none sold. Like, I want to be the first one that's selling these graded, because this is probably the last Panini Instant Wembanyama play I'm going to make this season. We've talked about how we've done this over and over, and there's almost an oversaturation of Wembanyama cards. I think his market is strong enough to carry a ton of cards. But I think, if I end up making 1K profit off of this, I'll move it into some Bowman cards probably. And then this will be the last Panini play I make of Wembanyama specifically. So we've had a lot of listeners reach out, and a lot of listeners ask about the Panini Instant play, and are we buying the Bronny 20 USC cards? And I did buy the Topps U Bronny first 3 points card, just so we're clear. But this will be the last Wemby specific Panini Instant play that I make, unless he does something outrageous. If he has a Panini Instant Rookie of the Year card or something, I might buy that one. But the last regular Panini Instant card that I buy for Wembanyama, just so we're clear.
Yeah, good stuff there, Lefty. It does seem like, I think in as an overall summary of your portfolio building right now, I think it appears to me like you're prioritizing cash flow over everything really right now with the plays that you're making. Yep. And you talked guidelines and strategies briefly. I wanted to hit on the CJ Stroud. I think even though you expose yourself to a little bit more risk than you typically would want, the guidelines and the strategy here allows you, because you, like you said, you got that lifeline of that out of 199. It allows you to, because of the strategy that you're implementing, it's removing that risk essentially because you're moving back into that cash flow so quickly. So I like where your head's at. Just real quick, why do you think what's the 3 to 6 month target kind of looking like for your portfolio in terms of changes? Because if you're moving into cash flow, it means some things are coming.
Yeah, I mean the things that are changing is I want to move into some of these baseball rankings that we've got, the top 5
Right.
before spring training. So I'm trying to get in and out of these cards to prepare a cash flow for the starting of the 2024 season. I think Wyatt Langford will make the club out of spring training. I think he'll be a sell. I think, we've talked about Jackson Holiday quite a bit. We've talked about Jackson Churio quite a bit. I want to milk the last few bits of that market before it just goes bananas. And so I want cash flow out of a Panini Instant SGC, 10 Wembanyama is not going to sit in my portfolio very long. I want that to make me money. I want my money to make me money. And then if I'm going to hold a card, I want to be holding a Jackson Holiday auto that's worth 1K rather than 1K worth of Panini Instant Wembanyama cards.
Love it. I'm excited for baseball season and the hype cycle for baseball season to come around to see all the things that you guys have added to your portfolios, that being you, Paul, and Chad, and see some good profits there. I'm going to give a little bit of live chat love before I give you my picks this week for a flyer, a hero, and a goat to get your feedback on. Good morning, Justin Stewart. Good morning, Randy Ferguson. Shane Graham, what's up? Good morning. Good morning, Brian Steeler 714. And we got Rusty Imagart in the house as well. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Looks like we're already getting some questions in the live chat, so be sure to keep them coming. For my picks this week that I have for you, Lefty, I tried to kind of mirror your strategy in terms of getting into cash flow. So most of these guys in my brain are sitting in that 3 to 6 month window of turnaround time, essentially. So kicking things off, I think I have one that's a kind of a fringe guy between a flyer and a hero, and I think there might be a little bit of debate between us potentially on if I'm incorrect in my placement here. But I think it's important to remember that how much of a hobby darling they might be doesn't necessarily change their positioning between flyer, hero / goat. So my first option is Elly De La Cruz as my flyer. Elly De La Cruz 2023 Bowman Chrome Prospects PSA 10. Let me talk about why I think Elly is still a flyer. This is a guy that had an extremely hot couple months, but he's played less than 100 MLB games. Is he loved by a lot of different guys in terms of fan base and stuff like that? Absolutely. Is he get a ton of media coverage? Absolutely. But to me, he's still a flyer. He's got less than 100 MLB games under his belt. He hit 235. It's not like he came out and hit 330 and put up insane numbers. Yeah, he had a couple good months, but I think, in my opinion, this guy's still a flyer. I think there is a lot of ways to make money off Elly right now, though. So this 2023 Bowman Chrome Prospects PSA 10 is down 47% the last 30 days. 32 trades over the last 30 days, so very liquid card. You can get in and out of it very easily, kind of mimicking our idea of prioritizing cash flow here. Last sale was just $15. This card was trading between $80 and $100 pretty much all of July and August of 2023. Do I expect it to get back to 80 to 100? Probably not, just because obviously that rise for Elly was so meteoric. But do I think it will grow? Absolutely. I think this could be a scenario, and I'm curious to get your feedback. Is this a scenario of is this wrong card where it's still right player, right time? Because I do think that Elly it's the right time to pick up Elly, but is this a wrong card scenario because it's the 2023 Bowman Chrome Prospects, not a first, and obviously Elly's already been promoted. Curious to get your thoughts here on if you think Elly's a flyer and how you feel about this card in general.
Yeah, great breakdown here. I think a lot of what you said is exactly correct. I think, and so if we look at the chart here, we've got pulled it up on the 180 days, which is pretty much since he got called up. So we've seen how it was a meteoric rise. It sold for almost $150 in July, which is around the time he got called up, around that June 8th, July run. He was just murdering baseballs. And so when I look at this card, it is down 70 or 78% since July, which is fine. And some of your brain is like, okay, that must mean that there's opportunity here. But I think you exactly hit it right on the head. It is the right player, wrong card. 2023 Bowman Chrome Prospects card for him is not even a rookie shield card for him. This is just a regular base Elly De La Cruz Chrome card that comes in the rest of the stuff. Like we've talked about how the right player, wrong card, and your assessment of his market, your assessment of where he's at, your assessment of him being a flyer, all that is exactly right. You killed that. I just don't want to be buying into a second, third year, or actually fourth year Elly De La Cruz card, or a fourth release Elly De La Cruz card that's not a first, nor a rookie, nor a parallel. It's just a base card that somebody's graded. And the current price of it being $15.50 is basically people are already losing money with grading this card. The fact that there's 692 of them is pretty wild. I don't know why people would send this off for grading. This is just a base Chrome Elly card, and we have not seen him have the same value of Mike Trout or something like that, who people grade his regular cards, and that's okay because he's Mike Trout. Shohei Ohtani has graded cards of his normal cards because he's Shohei Ohtani. But you're exactly right about Elly. He's got hype, but he hasn't exactly killed it. So no, this is not a buy for me, even though Elly, other cards could be a buy for me, just not this one.
Cool. Good breakdown there. We'll move right into my hero pick. I got Anthony Edwards, 2020 Optic Holo PSA 10. I think this is absolutely one of the right cards for Ant-Man outside of that Prism Silver. It's down 9% the last 30 days, and he has been nursing a little hip injury that's got him game to game, essentially. I'm so high on Anthony Edwards and outside of the basketball or outside of the sports card realm, just because I think he's such a fantastic player with so much upside. He's a generational talent. We saw him kind of lead Team USA in the FIBA, and the T-Wolves are big time exceeding expectations right now. I remember checking a couple days ago, and I realized they're sitting first in the West. They're 17-5, and they are first in the West. How on earth is this card down? He's leading the team. He's averaging 24, 6, and 5 on 45% from the field, 38% from three. To me, this is like kind of sitting in that 3 to 6 month window, maybe a little bit. It could sneak under 3 months depending on these markers we're looking for. But I'd be looking at this being a midterm hold. We got all-star starter game markers. Chad talked about on the Overflow show a few episodes ago how the all-star game isn't necessarily a marker for all the guys playing in it, but it could be a big one for guys starting in it. And I think if Ant-Man gets his first start in the All-Star game, it could really spike his card. We also have playoff markers. The Timberwolves, like I said, they are first in the West right now. And I cannot believe that, but it's just a fact of life. And the Thunder are second. So it's an interesting year. I love this card for Ant-Man. I'm curious to see what you think about this hero pick.
Yeah, when you can get in low on Ant-Man, I mean, I love to look at the 365-day chart on basketball players because I look at, okay, where was the hype cycle last year around the playoffs, or last year around All-Star break, or last year, because and when you look at this card, yes, it's down in the last recent data, but this is up since last year because Ant-Man has deserved his market to go up. When he first hit the NBA, he was a little underwhelming at the beginning, and then he has done his due diligence to make himself a more catalytic performer in the NBA. He has done the work coming out of Georgia. He's done the work to be a star in the NBA. So I think you're definitely right about him being a hero. He's not nowhere near a GOAT yet, but his marker, there's a lot of markers. And when I looked at the standings the other day and saw the Timberwolves in the top of the West, and I was like, there are so many good teams in the West, and the Timberwolves are out here just dominating it. So that's I think the NBA will just be interesting this year anyway, Connor. I think we will see some things. The way that I see the NBA, Adam Silver is just the GOAT of a commissioner, first off. He's doing some things that are risk-taking that I love. And I think that the NBA is a solid league. And I think we are seeing some of the best days of the NBA right now in front of us. And that's probably a hot take. But I think that Anthony Edwards moving forward is going to be coming off of an injury. Like, dude, come on. Get him while he's down because this guy is going to go potentially parabolic in the next couple of months when the Timberwolves are a number one seed and they're just dominating in the playoffs. So,
yeah, and I'm actually I think you made a good point there about this being a little bit different feeling of a season, a little bit strange of a season type. And it ties back into our sports card investment portfolios and the plays that we're making. And let me explain why. The reason that things feel slightly different this year is because there are teams outperforming teams that we are not used to seeing over the last decade. There's a lot of teams playing really well. I talked about the Thunder. Obviously, we're talking about the Timberwolves here. We're starting, and that's because we're starting to see this shift. We got guys like LeBron. We got guys like Steph Curry. We got guys like Kevin Durant starting to kind of get over that hill and slowly fade away from the NBA. And we're starting to, this is the first year, in my opinion, we're starting to really see guys that were kind of sitting under the radar, ready to kind of bloom, and they're transitioning their way into becoming the next faces of the league. So this is important because we've talked about picking up a lot of guys. We pitched Tyrese Maxey. I know Gary from Hoops and Cards was pitching him big time before he kind of exploded this year. Lefty's been pitching Immanuel Quickley. There's a lot of guys to look at that's kind of sitting that flyer or hero spot that aren't necessarily expensive right now, but because of the shift that we're going to see in the league over the next couple of years, they could become household names in the NBA. So these deep dives, I think, are awesome because we kind of take a look at some of these guys and break them down further. Obviously, Ant-Man's not really sitting under the radar, but I definitely think he's someone that's going to be a face of the league moving forward. Speaking of faces of the league moving forward, my GOAT pick is Luka Doncic. Yes, I'm labeling him a GOAT. I've had enough. Career 28, 9, and 8 guy. I think he is the face of the next generation once we see Giannis kind of start to fade out. I know a lot of people want to kind of put them in the same space, but I believe, and I might be wrong here, guys, I apologize, but I believe Giannis is around 30 right now. He might be a year or two younger. I think 29. And Luka is only 24. His 2018 Prism Silver is down 22% the last 30 days. 36 trades over that time period, so very liquid card. Last sale was $1,100, which is essentially a 365-day low for this card. It was going above the 2K mark essentially between December of 2022 and March of 2023. I think the pricing of this card right now is ridiculously low. The Mavericks look strong to me, in my opinion. Luka's going to continue to learn how to win. Kyrie seems very comfortable in Dallas, not doing any flashy stuff off the court, not really causing any mayhem over there. I like what they have going on. They got some young talent on the wings and in the post that I think is going to help them out a lot. And this pricing of this 2018 Prism Silver and PSA 10 for Luka feels a little ridiculous to me to not take advantage of if I had the cash flow.
Yeah, I think that Luka is definitely a player that I would consider in the GOAT category as well, just because of all he's already accomplished. When we look at Luka and last night, with Mavericks Lakers game, I was watching, and Luka is just still doing Luka stuff. We're talking about him, and Derek Lively, first off, is not getting enough credit. Derek Lively is not getting enough credit. But Luka is playing good. We don't have the Irving situation right now, and he's still playing well. We've got his team that's doing okay. The Mavericks are getting sold. There's some other stuff that's hyped around him. I think there is potential of him moving teams, and that'll be an interesting saga for Luka that I don't really know where that's going to go in the future. But I do agree that he is worth putting into the GOAT conversation because of all the stuff he's already accomplished, Connor. We talk about all of the stuff that he's done in his career, especially overseas already. Doing what he did at the Real Madrid basketball classic and the Champions League over there and all that kind of stuff. He changed what we would know of a young prospect coming into the NBA. I don't know how in the world the Hawks thought that this was a good idea, trading him for Trae Young. That just doesn't make any sense in my head. And I didn't at the time. I was like, "What are you doing?" And now I'm like, "This looks horrible for you." Might be just. Yes, Trae Young can score, but you're not getting Luka back when you're getting trade. That's just that trade just hurts my brain a little bit, Connor, to be honest. But this card being down 9% in the last 30 days with a little bit of an injury, but then he's going out last night and does what he does. I think I am more willing to buy into – sorry, he's not injured. I was reading the Anthony Edwards stuff. The actual – yes, he is the face of this generation. He's much younger than a lot of the other players that are where we expect him to be. We expect him to be Giannis, or we expect him to be, Durant or whoever that's carrying these franchises. But he's, potentially 10 years younger than those guys. Look at him compared to LeBron James. He's 14 years younger than LeBron James. That's insane.
Right.
Yeah, he's closer to Bronny's age than he is to LeBron. And so that's fun to even think about. We could have literally 15 more years of Luka Doncic. And that's fun. And I guarantee you there's going to be some sell markers in the next 15 years for Luka Doncic. So, yeah, I think this is a good buy. I think I have been out on Luka for a long time because of how crazy money was being put into him in 2021. Like we look at the all-time data on this card, you'll see some crazy. I mean, 9.4K for a silver, non-autographed PSA 10 card. There was 5 that sold at that price. And then we see, others that weren't like too off, 9,000, 8.8, like this was a crazy card at one point. I remember these selling for huge money, and you were seeing them all over Facebook groups for people trying to move them and stuff and trying to, and then you look at all of these sales down here, Connor. Like there's a million sales of people being like, I still believe in this guy. So I think it's a good sell or a good buy. I think we can see how Luka has not hit his day in the sun yet. And we will see, I think, him win a championship several times in his next 15 years.
Good stuff there. Yeah. You mentioned sell markers, and there's definitely going to be some that present themselves depending on how long you're willing to have this cash flow held up in your portfolio. However, Paul talked about Tiger Woods on Monday's Sports Card Strategy Show, and really the play there was just timing the market. And I think this could be another scenario where obviously we want to have markers, but I think this is another spot where you can just time the market with the valuation that it's at. So I felt really confident about this pick here. Sounds like you're on the same page. So I'm excited to see what Luka's card market does in the next couple of years. With that being said, we will roll right into Path to Profit.
Hey, I would like to give you a small surprise, Connor.
Okay.
So
what we got?
I told you before the podcast, I was like, I got a surprise for you. It won't take long, but I just saw Card Banker 20 jump in the chat. So Card Banker 20 reached out to me a couple of days ago, and he was like, hey, I want to send Connor something. And I said, send it to me, and I'll send it to him. So, Connor, you are getting a PSA 10 Rui Hachimura card.
No way.
From Card Banker 20, and he has sent us a little starter deck for your collection.
No
he is going
way.
to send. So I've got a pack of cards ready for you. You've got a Rui Hachimura PSA 10 and a good little collection to start your little flipping portfolio. It's got a ton of rookies cards in it. It's got nothing like super crazy, but he is giving you the ability to start your portfolio with some of these. I mean, we've got prism bases in here. We've got mosaics. We've got selects. We've got players like Miles Bridges, with some upside when he comes back to the NBA. We've got John Collins in here. We've got Jaren Jackson Jr. We've got some names in here, and Anunoby. So these are some guys in here that you can start your portfolio with as they start trending upwards. And you are going to have the ability to be able to move these cards as you will. So Card Banker 20, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for sending me and Connor some of our cards for our portfolio. I also got some as well. And so, dude, props to some of our listeners. I truly believe, Connor, we have some of the coolest listeners in the hobby. So
there's no doubt about that. Shout out Card Banker 20, man. That's just so cool to hear this morning. I have Card Banker 20 in my GOAT category for sure. That's awesome. Definitely want to reach out and touch base with you on this. And I know me and Lefty both really appreciate it. So legit shout out for Card Banker 20, man. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. He sent you a note with it as well.
That caught me off guard a little bit.
So I wanted to surprise you on the show. I was like, yeah, this would be something fun that I could get Connor's reaction. It's a Rui Hachimura, baby. You were talking about him a couple weeks ago, and then we talked about him being a sell. And then he comes out last night and plays well. And I'm like, okay, man, this Rui Hachimura guy, he's something else, So it's all in good respect for the hobby. Is one of the things that I have met some of the best people in the world, Connor. I've just met some of the best people. And I just know that there's great people all over the world from stuff like this. And it helps me generally trust people more than it is for people to be like, people are skeptical of people a lot because they don't know them. I think what I have expected or what I have learned in the hobby is that that you can trust the hobby more than you need to be skeptical of it. And that's a hot take, I think. So a lot of people are skeptical of that. But anyway, congrats. You're going to get to start your portfolio. You're getting a shot in the arm of some assets. And so you will get these in the mail later this week.
Love it. What a great segue. Thank you again, Card Banker 20. Absolutely awesome of you, and we appreciate that a ton. With that being said, while I'm just sitting over here smiling because I think that was so awesome, let's go ahead and kick it over to Lefty for his path to profit.
Yeah. So my play this week, and when we're talking about the path to profit, we talk about let's make you're diving into the brain of what I'm doing here at the Sports Card Strategy Show and the deep dives. This is what we're doing. We're breaking down our plays and seeing where, diving into where we see margin and meat on the bone. I said earlier in this podcast that Quickley is somebody that I'm diving into a lot. I'm still looking at this thinking, how are the prices so dang low, Connor? Like, I just don't believe it. When I'm buying a $5 extremely well-centered Quickley, I'm going to send that off for $20. I got $25 invested in this card, and I think it is so cheap right now. I'm bidding on all of the ones that I can find on eBay to try to get them around that $50. When we first started looking at this card, it was $53, I believe. So let's see. We got the Quickley. I always forget to put the E on the end. PSA 10. We're looking at it on Market Movers for those of you that are listening. His silver PSA 10 right now is, so the last sale says 70.25. So if we look at the last 90 days, his sales are up 34.9%. So the last sale, $71. There was two sales actually for $71. So we're up 34.9%. And I believe we started talking about them around this $50 mark, or this $50 mark around 2 weeks ago. So we look at the last 14 days or the last 30 days. This card is up 32.4% since we started talking about it. People are recognizing that this is an undervalued card.
Right.
But, Connor, I think this is maybe one of the most undervalued cards in the hobby. Like, I don't understand how a silver PSA 10 of Immanuel Quickley, yes, he's the sixth man, but he is probably going to compete for sixth man of the year. We're seeing how Quickley is going to be an offensive asset on this playoff Knicks team. One of the biggest markets in sports is the New York Knicks, the New York Knickerbockers, if you will. And Quickley is undervalued here. Had Brunson not moved onto this team, he would be the starter. He would be the guy on this team that's scoring buckets. I believe, we've talked about this extensively, I believe Quickley is going to have a meteoric rise. When we first started talking about this card at $53, $54, I'm still bidding on them, and I think $71, the two 71s that sold last night, I was bidding on those cards. I just lost those auctions because I see this card going around 200 someday. I think this is an easy double, potentially triple. If the Knicks end up playing well in the playoffs and Quickley's carrying them offensively, this is going to be a card that's going to sell well. So I'm buying these cards. I'm buying them raw. I'm buying them in a PSA 10. I think there is so much meat on the bone here. And this is something that I can see multiple safety outlets for this card. I think that it can't get any lower, really. In the last 365 days, it traded at, 36, 36, and 34, that's disrespectful for Quickley, first off.
I think that has to be his floor there. Definitely. And Another thing I think to consider for listeners is that's one way to kind of to hedge the risk, right? Is understanding what a card's floor is at. Another way that you're hedging risk is by the play that you're making here and the strategies that you're using to make it. So, like you said, obviously you're at this point you're trying to load up on them because we're so high on Quickley. I think he's one of those guys that's going to be another, probably 20, 25 points per game score in the near future in the next few years. But another way that Lefty is mitigating risk is by the card that he's picking here and the strategies that he's making. So the ones that he is buying raw, it's such a safe play because if you go over to gymrate.com and look at the breakdown, so this card gyms roughly 40% of the time. And with the prices that Lefty's getting in, he was buying some of these for like $5, people. And even though it's only a $75 card right now, after grading and fees, you're looking at $20 that you can turn into $75. It has a free centering tool. And if it doesn't gym, you're looking at, I believe the percentage for PSA 9 is about 57%. And while the PSA 9s aren't going for a whole lot, the risk is a lot lower because you're more than likely, you got over a 90% breakdown of PSA 9 or 10 there. And with the free centering tool that you're afforded, shout out to the card designs. I think it's just, you mitigate so much risk in this play for a guy that we believe has so much upside. So I really do love the Quickley play. I know we touched on it. You touched on it during Monday's show, and I thought it was a great pick. And I'm glad we touched on it a little bit more today.
I mean, the PSA 9 right now is selling for $20.
Right. So you're essentially getting your investment back, even if you only get a 9.
I just don't understand how this is a $20 PSA 9, and the floor of his within the last 2 months of his PSA 10 was $30. That's crazy, dude. I just think there's just so many opportunities for this card to go up. I don't understand why it's so low. I just don't. He comes from a good school. Anyway, we will talk about this more because I actually have him in my 1K budget builder. So just a shout out. But Paul talked about Tiger Woods on Monday's show. The PSA 10 Tiger Woods upper deck card, I've been talking about quite a bit. This is 6 to 9 months in the making. I have been buying these 2001 Tiger Woods upper deck cards. When we look at Tiger Woods, Connor, I don't just love golf, but I think Tiger Woods has been somebody that I have always looked at and looked up to. When I grew up and it was like Tiger Woods was the man. He was winning man of the year stuff. He was winning athlete of the year. When I was growing up, like Tiger Woods was the GOAT, and then he had his fall from grace where he got hit with a golf club by his wife and all this crazy stuff. And then he's had all these back injuries and everything, but Tiger is still like a guy that people love to love. And I think that's Absolutely. Super important when we look at sports cards. I think when people love to hate somebody or when people love to love somebody, sports cards markets move. And I think all Tiger has to go do is if he does if he shoots a 0 bogey round, I think this card goes up. He doesn't even have to win. He just Definitely. Has to be on TV, and this card will go up. I've bought 5 of them this year, several of them raw, some of them in SGC. I actually did the old school Chad Gill crack and flip. I bought an SGC 9.5 and cracked it, and it's now currently at PSA. And so if that comes back at PSA 10, I'll have about $110 more value than I had when I bought it as a SGC 9.5. And so I just believe that this card is going to go up. Paul talked about this earlier this year about how this is going to sell multiple times for over $300. I bought at a high season at around $250. In the past 365 days, we've seen this card sell for over $300 quite a few times. And so this card right now being at $213, you could make a potentially $100 flip on this card in the next 6 months. He's going to play with his son. If all things are healthy, he's going to end up playing well, I believe. He's going to have one more at least awesome tournament before he hangs it up and goes to the old man PGA Tour, which I still think the old man PGA Tour will be rises for him. If he wins there, then people are going to be excited about it. He doesn't have to play, he can play on the senior tour and do well. And still, I think people will love investing in his cards. So
Yes.
I think this is a good time to buy into Tiger Woods. I think this is a good time to buy in this specific card. I have 5 of them. I'm bidding on more of them this week, just so we're clear. So a lot of them are in the old school vintage or old school PSA 10s holders. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of an old school PSA 10 that looks a little bit outdated. The fact that it's a PSA 10 is what's important. So I'm still bidding on the vintage holders. They are still red. Sometimes the vintage holders from other companies look like a completely different company, or they're like different colors, or like the old SGCs were blue, and like there's some other blue PSAs and stuff like that. These are red SG or PSA 10s. They have a different font, yeah, and that you can tell that it's not the same, era, but they still are a PSA 10, and that's what's important.
Yeah, I love Paul's pitch and your backup to Paul's pitch for Tiger Woods right now. You mentioned a lot of good stuff. Wherever Tiger goes, people are going to watch. Doesn't matter if it's on the senior tour, like you mentioned. It doesn't matter if it's a small tournament like the Hero World Challenge, which is his own tournament. We saw a spike from him playing in the Hero World Challenge, a tournament that nobody really cares about. People watch because it's invite only, so top players play, but it's not a massive purse. If you win, no one really cares once we get to the majors for the year. It just kind of kicks off the season with a fun event at a relatively easy course with some of the top players. Mm-hmm. And his cards went up. We saw a spike over the last 30 days. His market pulse for all his graded cards in PSA 10 are up 40% in the last 30 days. Now that's going back down. You might say, oh, well, should we not buy them? That's an indication of like he played in a tournament a couple weeks ago. You saw what happened over the last 7 days, back down 4%. Mm-hmm. Over the last 180 days, PSA 10 market for Tiger Woods down 20%. You're mentioning it's essentially a hobby darling thing, but it's really a golf darling thing as well. And the combination of those two is going to make him an extremely attractive purchase in our eyes right now with the valuation of these cards. And another thing to consider is that Tiger has recently committed to trying to play one tournament per month on top of playing the majors. That is not something that I think a lot of people expected just based on him having to withdraw.
I didn't know that. That's nice.
Massive news there. So the more that we see Tiger play, like you're saying, I think there's going to be a Sunday or even a Saturday where he's sitting in the top 15, top 10, and people are like, all right, it's Tiger time. And that's going to be like, if you have his cards, I'm wondering if that's I'm curious to get your take here. If you have Tiger's cards, it's a Friday, all the rounds are done for the day, and Tiger's sitting T3 at 12 under after 2 days. Is it worth trying to list that card as a buy it now that ends, or I guess it wouldn't end because it's on auction, as a buy it now on a Saturday or Sunday, just because you wouldn't necessarily have the time for the auction that you're looking for to build up the bids there?
I think there's going to be so many opportunities for this card that I think to getting in now, I don't have to worry about the bids. I don't have to worry about what they're doing here. I just believe in Tiger Woods, man. Like that's where I'm at with it, and I believe that his market is going to be crazy. Like right now it's at 213, this PSA 10, the absolute floor. I mean, in the last 365 days, there was one that sold for way cheaper than everything else, and it sold for $159. So this is still a $160 card at its absolute floor, and you can get it right now for $213. That's $50 away from the floor. That is good risk.
Minimal downside.
Yeah, minimal downside here. A lot of upside. Many sales over that $200 or that $300 mark. We've got probably 25 sales here over $300 in the last 365 days. And then we look at all data. Like we know how this data is confusing because it's got 2001 out here with an $823 card, but this card is still this is a great chart, by the way. Can we go for a different way for just a second back on something that I talked about a couple of days ago?
Sure. For those of you listening and not watching, Lefty's going to try and depict some chart work here.
Well, so I come from an investing background of different types, and so I look at different rises of floors and different new floors. Basically, what I want to talk about here is a new floor. We talked about that a couple of days ago about how when a market, bubbles and then it crashes, you see a new floor. And so look at this chart. It's one of actually Market Movers itself doesn't have a ton of data before 2021 because that's when Market Movers rolled their data forward. Well, this card in particular has had well-documented data since 2013. So this the first sale of this card that's in Market Movers is 2013, sold for $33. Don't you wish you could get it back in there? And then it sold around that $30 to $50 mark. And then in 2020, we see this rise all the way, the bubble to $823. It has 2,395% rise, Connor. Like, that's not sustainable, and it's going to come down. And we've seen it rest around this $200 mark. So we talk about 2021 being an absolute skyrocket to our market, but it rose the floor of all sports cards. In this chart right here that we're looking at, we are seeing how the market, let's see, a $200 and $50, that's, the 4X. And so we've seen how our market has 4X the floor. And this card specifically, this is one example, but I think this is a good example of where we're at in the sports card market in general. We were at one place, then we went parabolic, then we've come back down. And a lot of people use that coming back down, up from 2,000 something percent down to 500%. They're like, oh my gosh, we're down 1,500%. Well, if you look at it the past 10 years, which is actually a more sustainable investment lookout in terms of like classical investments, if you look at 10-year runs on investments, we're still up 500%. And so I think we've got a healthy market here. I think this Tiger Woods 2001 upper deck base card is a great example of where the overall health of the market is at. It went parabolic, came back down to a healthy amount, and we will see this card rise from here as this is the new floor. So I think for those of you that are not watching, we're watching this chart go extremely high and then come back down. Well, the down is not, when you back out and see all of the data, it is actually up 500% still from 10 years ago, which is still 500% rise in our hobby in the last 10 years. I think there will be at least a 500% rise in the next 10 years as well.
Great breakdown there, Lefty. I think for those listening and watching, they got a good understanding of what you're discussing there. I think that's a great point too in terms of identifying, and you'll see a lot of charts that look similar to this. So if you really head over to Market Movers and break it down, use a promo code NOOFFSEASON for a free trial and savings there. But I think there's a lot of charts that look similar to this, and I think you made a great point of setting that new floor. And being able to identify that is so big as an investor of many different kinds, like you're saying. So good stuff there. I think we'll go ahead and hop into invest or fade if you're ready for it, my friend. I got a couple tough ones for you this week. I worked extra hard on these. So let's kick things off. Since we've been actually, I changed my mind. We're gonna kick things off talking basketball here. My first pick, Kevin Durant, 2007 Topps Chrome Base PSA 10 versus Giannis Antetokounmpo 2013 Prism Base. Let's talk Kevin Durant real quick. That 2007 Topps Chrome Base PSA 10 is down 25% the last 30 days. Pop count 1,100, so pretty accessible without just a ridiculous amount in circulation. Last sale $770. This is $1,000 to $1,200 card. No questions asked if you look at lifetime trends. I think the Suns are a legit contender. The Nuggets have actually looked a little weak, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks. I think they're a legit contender. The Suns also have Bradley Beal returning. Grayson Allen's fitting in fantastic there. They've got a lot of pieces that I think people are kind of worried about their depth, but I think they did a good job with the trade that picked up Grayson Allen, adding some good depth there. KD is actually having a career year, believe it or not. I believe is he 34 roughly? I apologize again if I'm missing age, but roughly 34 years old, averaging 31, 7, and 6 on 52% from the field and over 50% from three. This is literally one of Kevin Durant's best years ever. And he's been in the league a decade and a half. So that card being $770, I'm really buying it because this option is put up here because I think it's so undervalued at the moment. I think, like I said, if you look at historical trends, this is $1,000 to $1,200 card, no problem. I think the Suns are going to make the playoffs at a good seed, and I think we're going to have some sell markers from KD versus Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2013 Prism Base PSA 10. This card essentially hasn't changed at all in the last 30 days in terms of pricing. But it is priced similarly. So $707 was the last sale. Pop count 3,000, and it's even though it hasn't changed much the last 30 days, it's at basically a 365-day low right now. They're still trying to figure out their mix of Dame and Giannis, and I think people have been frustrated. Like they haven't been playing well. They didn't win the in-season tournament. They're 16-7, guys. They've played 23 games with two ball-centric stars in our league, and they're 16-7. That's a very good sign of what's to come there. Giannis is having another great year, per usual, averaging 31, 11, and 5 on 62% shooting. Lefty, who you rolling here? Who you rolling with here? Excuse me, Kevin Durant or Giannis? And is one of these the right card versus the wrong card? Curious to see your thoughts.
Oh man, Connor, we've talked about how I hate Kevin Durant, and so I
Wanted to make it
really,
difficult.
I really have to put this card in perspective and not think about the player on the card, right? And so
Take the emotion out, baby.
yeah, taking the emotion out is hard, brother. Like it's hard because this card is something that like we want to look at cards in an emotional setting because they in fact are there are heroes, like these are our heroes, and it's sports. For those of us that are in this hobby, most of us have been sports fans our whole life. And so like it is an emotional thing. But these cards both like trading at such a similar value right now, $700, and then Kevin Durant's coming in a little bit above that, 770. I just, brother, I don't know how I'm not picking Giannis here. Like I don't think it's close because Kevin Durant, like just thinking about them, I'm trying to take myself out of my own brain, and I still feel like it's Giannis all day because everybody loves Giannis, and then there's half the world out here that hates Kevin Durant because he just keeps stabbing people in the back. He just keeps moving to other teams. He just keeps moving people around. Like, yeah, we talk about James Harden being a team killer. Like anyway, I'm not gonna say Kevin Durant's a team killer.
Can't possibly say Kevin Durant's a team killer. But
I am not saying that. I'm just saying there's more negative media around him than Giannis.
100%.
And Giannis is younger. Giannis is going to win more championships. Hot take, I think Giannis has the better team this year.
Agreed.
And so I am going to take the cheaper of the two. And I am going to take Giannis for all those. And I do think it's the right card for Giannis. We've just talked about how this is a big card. We've talked about how the silver is what Chad just traded 200 cards for. This same card as the silver is what Chad just like really moved his whole entire like year's play of getting 20 cards for each of our players on our rankings at nooffseason.com and the baseball rankings. He moved all of those cards for one Giannis silver. So this is the base version of that. You can get it up for under $1,000. Like, give it to me.
Yeah. I think it's a good pick from you here, Lefty. I think, and you mentioned kind of some risk factors as to why we would like Giannis. You mentioned age. Also, injury should be something to keep in mind here because KD's obviously had some big injuries over the course of his career, and he is getting older. And you also made another good point where you were discussing more people like Giannis than like KD. And I think that's partially the reason that if Giannis wins a championship, his cards will go up more than if KD wins a championship. He's just so much more liked in the hobby, in my opinion. And I think this card has a lot of upside, even though it's not necessarily down the last 30 days. Like I said, if you look at those 365-day charts, it's basically at a 365-day low. So
let me bring another point up. Let me bring another point up here. Kevin Durant's 2007 Topps Chrome card. That's almost a vintage card at this point. like just looking at the two different cards here, you see how the quality is different.
We're talking 16 years old. This card is now.
Yeah. So we're talking 16 years and 10 years. But like, this is not, I mean, we've got literally Kevin Durant in a uniform of a team that has not been around in almost 20 years. That's almost a vintage card, brother. And so, like, I don't know if these two cards are even in the same. I think they have to be looked at differently. I think even though they're both currently playing, even though they're both like similar builds, we all thought that Giannis was going to be the next Durant, but then we found out that Giannis cannot shoot like Durant, and so like, but also Giannis seems to be more durable than Durant. So, like he's a little more Shaq, a little less Durant, which is kind of crazy to think about. And Shaq even compared himself to Giannis the other day. I don't know if you saw that. But he was like, people don't say I'm in the league anymore, but my name is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I was like, oh, dang, that's a crazy take. But and I think I would consider this 2007 card almost vintage. And I think that's a hot take. I wonder what Chad has to say about that, considering he's been in the hobby since that long. But a 2007 card being labeled as vintage for him, I bet that's making him upset. I can just imagine. But
I think the other day on one of the shows, he mentioned 1980 or older or something similar. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was negative 20 when Chad considers something a vintage card.
Negative 20. Your parents, children, like
exactly. That's nonetheless.
So
I think you picked the right option here. My thought was top star goats in the league right now with similar pricing, but I think you're right. I think after we kind of dissect it a little bit, it's a no-brainer here. I think Giannis is the right play. Up next, I got a couple of skill position guys in the NFL world for you to pick from. And I think this is something that we can dissect. I don't think there's necessarily a right answer here. I think there can be multiple right answers. So number one, we're going with Tyreek Hill, 2016 Prism Silver PSA 10, down 10% the last 30 days, 11 trades. So relatively liquid for a skill position guy. $300 was the last sale. He's got playoff markers coming up, and he's 7th right now in the MVP race.
Are we doing a PSA 10
Vegas? Yes, PSA 10. He's 7th in the MVP race right now per Vegas Insider, which is very impressive for a receiver in today's league with all the star power we have from quarterbacks. Versus Jettas, Justin Jefferson 2020 Select Field Silver, down 34% the last 180 days. Currently a $140 card that was sitting roughly $250 preseason. Maybe it was a little bit less, $200 to $225 range in preseason. Jettas got injured again after returning the first game back. This is a card to me you would buy and wait for the hype cycle, whereas for Tyreek Hill, you'd be buying looking for playoff markers, potentially / MVP markers, because he's had such a ridiculous season. Another pick where I'm wondering, is this a scenario of right versus wrong card between these guys? And could there be two correct answers here depending on your cash flow needs? What are your thoughts here, Lefty?
Could there be two incorrect answers?
No, two correct answers based on cash flow needs. So, for example,
I'm saying could there be two incorrect answers?
Correct answers.
Oh man, I think this is such a hard thing, because if you're making me choose, then I would have to. But these are not two cards that I would invest in just out of principle. But looking at what the differences are and how I am going to break it down is what the value of this show is. I am talking out loud about why we're breaking down the differences between these two cards. So let's start with Tyreek Hill. Down 10% the last 30 days because there's been a little bit of humanness that we've been able to see in these Dolphins. They've fallen down from Icarus, got a little too close to the sun. They were just ungodly for a while, and now they're like a little bit returning back to home. But this Dolphins team is still legit, but Tyreek Hill did get a little bit of a knock last game. So I expect this card to go down a little bit more. He did come back in the second half of that game and actually fell asleep for the fourth quarter. So I don't know if he stayed in the game, but I did see him in the third.
It's an unbelievable fourth quarter, brother.
I know. I missed the fourth quarter of unbelievable for both of those Monday night games. But, like when you have work and then in the Tuesday morning, you actually have to do adult things sometimes. But so Tyreek Hill is a good investment. If you are expecting him to be in that top 3 MVP conversation. Yeah, he's top 7 right now, but like, do people actually think he's going to win? No.
Good point.
Like I think being top 10 in MVP is like almost like saying, man, like, attaboy, like, but when you're top 3, that's when people are like, oh crap, somebody could win this thing. Like, are you going to give, I think you would give Tyreek Hill the MVP over Tua right now, because you saw when Tyreek Hill left the game, I think it actually helped Tyreek Hill's MVP consideration because Tua looked lost. Like he was not being able to get the ball out in under 2 seconds like he is with Tyreek Hill. And that's what helps Tua right now is he's getting it. The pressure, the line doesn't have to hold up as long, because he releases so quickly. The cheetah is just unreal, but at the same time, I just don't think he ends up being Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy or whoever, like I think a quarterback ends up winning this. I don't think they give it to Tyreek Hill. So I don't think he ends up winning it. So I'm not saying that that's going to be an actual sale marker. I think if he wins it, it would be, but I'm not going to predict him winning an MVP that's just always a quarterback only award, basically. Right. So I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson here for all those reasons, and the fact that Justin Jefferson hasn't been on the field in 2 months. Like he did come back he caught 2 balls on Sunday and then had a chest contusion. Probably going to be back next week, but just I haven't seen if that's news or not. Do you know if he's back next week?
Unconfirmed there.
Okay, so assuming that he's back next week, I believe Justin Jefferson's rise is going to be from here on. I think that this is the floor for this card when you're seeing a ceiling almost for this Tyreek Hill card. And I'm always more wanting to buy at the floor than I am at the ceiling. I mean, if we look at the 365-day chart, everything's fairly similar, like these cards are in the same network and stratosphere. And then you just see, boom, we've seen this massive rise in Tyreek Hill. And then we've seen a drop in Justin Jefferson. I would rather buy the guy at the bottom and have many years to come than buy the guy at the top that's nearing probably the last 5 years of his career.
Yep. Totally agree there. And for clarification, everyone, Justin Jefferson is currently questionable. He was limited at practice yesterday, but typically, based on my excessive fantasy sports indulgence, he's going to play on Sunday, in my personal opinion. Good stuff there, Lefty. I think you got both of my investor fades. I think your head's in the right spot there, and I definitely learned a lot from your breakdown. Let's go ahead and roll into the 1K budget builder. For those of you listening that have been following this deep dive with myself and Lefty Wednesday mornings, you'll know that we've been doing this for a while now. So next week's deep dive, you're going to get a full breakdown in terms of where our portfolios are at. We've pitched a lot of different guys. Me and Lefty need to update you on who we have sold, where our profits are at, and where this race is right now, this head-to-head of our 1K budget builder. So next week's Wednesday morning show, you guys will get the full breakdown there. But Lefty, go ahead and give me your low, mid, and high tier and your 1K budget builder for the week, my friend.
So my low tier is a guy that I'm Connor, I'm going to beat this drum. Like there was a meeting the other day where I met with Paul and I was like, man, sometimes, I get a little on the fringes because I feel like we beat the same guys over and over. And he goes, are the same guys making us money? And I was like, yes. And he was like, okay, then keep talking about them. And so Immanuel Quickley will keep making us money. There is no way that this card doesn't go up. The $70 silver prisms, give me 2 of them at that price. So I'm going to go with $140 invested in the extremely low end Immanuel Quickley PSA 10 silver prism. Call me a man of consistency here, but I just can't pass these up. When I believe that when we get at the all-time high, I think in the short term will be $250 at its peak. And if the Knicks do anything this postseason, and that's an easy double of $140. Maybe even a triple at 210. So if we see that card go where I think it's going to go, I think this is a card that I want to have in my portfolio when people are looking for Immanuel Quickley cards. Selling marker, I have the NBA playoffs. I think the NBA playoffs are going to be where he comes alive. So I'm still adding. We've talked about. I'm not going to add much more on this card, but just know I'm still buying it. I'm still wanting to hammer the buy button. Like that meme of the blue button with the guy from Shark Tank. It's like invest. Like that's where I'm at with this card. Like invest. I would literally. You could bring me 10 of them, and I would be like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to get $700 clear so I can buy all 10 of these right now. So I'm gonna take 2 for the purpose of this exercise. My mid-tier card is a card that I think is crazy right now. So I have talked last week about Patrick Mahomes. We talked about how I think that this is the best time to buy in on him, and so I was just perusing on Market Movers at some of his cards. And I found one that I believe is so undervalued, it is a can't miss right now. Like this Prism 2018 Patrick Mahomes card is selling for $27, Connor. In the past month, it is actually sold for $20. We're getting a 2018 Prism card, Chiefs jersey, PSA 10 Mahomes card, and I know it's not the right jersey, I know it's not the right card. We've just talked about how like right card, right person, but I think this one is at its floor. Like, when it's like close to your floor, you're like, okay, maybe, but this is at its floor. Like it cannot go lower than this, I believe. And so you've got a PSA 10 of Patrick Mahomes 2018 Prism base, not a Prism Silver. I'm aware of all of these cards, but I cannot believe how low this card is when it sold over 100 times, 12 times, and not in 2021. This sold over $100 12 times this year alone. And As I have stated, I expect Patrick to be in the Super Bowl. And if that happens, these cards will make a 600 plus profit on a very low investment card. So I'm taking 10 of these Patrick Mahomes 2018 Prism base cards. So I'm spending at the current evaluation of $27.89. I am going to buy 10 of those and come in at just under $300 in my mid-tier investment. My selling marker here is Super Bowl or conference finals. Or in fact, I could probably, if you get 10 of these, you can trickle sell them. Like you can trickle them as this goes, if it's a $50, you're doubling your investment back up. It's half of where the all-time high in the last 365 days high is at, but still you're making a double from where it's at. I don't have to worry much about what's going on in this chart because of the base card. Patrick Mahomes cards sell when he does well. That's just the matter of fact. And we have seen him have the worst season of his career right now. And he's still a playoff man. Like Patrick Mahomes is worth investment right now because in the next 10 years, we're going to look at this card and it's not going to be $27. I can guarantee you that. In the next 6 months, this will not be $27. It is at its absolute floor. So give me 10.
Great pick here, Lefty. I'm good with it.
My high end, Caleb Williams is a guy that I cannot look past right now. His markers are all here, and this card, the winning bid was $543. $543 for a PSA 10 Bowman Chrome first Caleb Williams card. This card sold for over $1,000 several times this year. But we have seen how his market has fallen. And Connor, the NFL draft is coming up. I believe he's going to actually go to the NFL draft because he's sitting out of his bowl game. From what I've seen, he is not playing in the bowl game. Now, I'll have to have you confirm that. So if you'll do some Googling, I have seen that he is potentially sitting out of USC's bowl game, which means he's preparing for the NFL draft. Another extremely undervalued card.
Confirmed.
People are confirmed?
Confirmed. USC quarterback Caleb Williams will not play in bowl game. That's a huge indicator there, guys.
Hallelujah. Huge. That means this card is at its floor as well, I believe. When you're getting half of where it was when this guy was preseason Heisman Trophy winner, and he's about to go get drafted in the first 5 of the NFL draft. First 5 picks, I would say first 3 picks of the NFL draft, but you never know with all the teams trying to make cheeky plays and trading in and out. I'm gonna put a risky investment and say a risky play and say it's first 5. Caleb Williams is going to be a star in the NFL, and I want this card. The sell marker is unbelievably solid. The Patrick Mahomes and Immanuel Quickley cards that we just talked about, the playoff markers of the sell markers of the playoffs. Things could happen. We know how, in the worst case scenarios, these 2 athletes, Immanuel Quickley and Patrick Mahomes, could get injured before then. They could not get into a postseason game. There is 100% certainty, Connor, that the NFL draft will happen. You do not have to worry about, is somebody going to get hurt, and the NFL draft is not going to happen. I would say even if there was another pandemic, the NFL draft would happen, and it would happen live or on Zoom or something. They would keep doing it. And so the fact that the NFL draft is so certain, and Caleb Williams will be at the absolute top of that, and he's not playing in his bowl game, hello, that is a buy marker for me. Give me a Caleb Williams 2022 Bowman Chrome University Prospect Auto. Last sell $400 or $543. I would buy this all the way up to about $650, $700 probably, because I think this is a 1K card. And I think the sell marker is so solid. The only thing that could change is if Caleb Williams does go back to USC, which I don't believe he is, because he's sitting out of a bowl game, and you've seen Lincoln Riley going into this transfer portal and trying to recruit all these other quarterbacks. He's preparing for life without Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams has told Lincoln, you're gonna have life without Caleb Williams, I believe.
Yeah. Love it. Great breakdown here. I think you did a good job of listing your sell markers for all 3 of these guys, and I think all 3 of these picks are going to make you some serious cash. I totally agree with that. Him sitting out that bowl game is a huge indicator, people. So those of you that have been listening to Paul over the last several months and others that have been recommending Caleb Williams, I know Lefty's picked up. Obviously, this one's a hypothetical, but Lefty picked up a Caleb Williams print over the last several weeks himself. Profits are coming soon. Profits are coming soon, so be ready for those sell alerts. If you're not signed up already, text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727. That is sports cards to 1-833-992-5727 to make sure you're up to date on all the sells that we recommend getting listed as soon as possible after news breaks for the sell markers that we've been looking for. All right, Lefty brought it strong with his picks this week. I feel like he beat me this week already, and I haven't even started yet. I went with I feel like I went a little bit too risky for my liking this week, but we're gonna hop into it. My low end is definitely a flyer. Mac Jones.
Whoa!
Who has been extremely underwhelming in NFL since joining. His 2021 Prism Silver PSA 10 right now is down 21% the last 30 days. This is only a $40 card. Do I believe in Mac Jones? Absolutely not. Do I think he's an elite quarterback? Absolutely not. I do think this card is going to go up. And not only do I not believe in Mac Jones, I don't believe in Bailey Zappi. So I think that Mac Jones will have his time to return to the starting quarterback position for the New England Patriots. I think he's going to work hard this offseason. These Alabama players they all work hard. I expect them to work hard the offseason, come back strong the beginning of next year. And I don't even want him to perform well. I'm not looking for him to perform well. Like I said, I don't believe in Mac Jones necessarily, but this was a $150 card when the season began this year. And I would imagine we're going to see spikes. I'm buying this card now, and I'm holding it until the NFL hype cycle returns. I think this $40 card, worst case, sits in that $80 to $90 to $100 range, just depending on certain factors there. So I'm buying 5 of those. A little bit of a risky play, but I think it makes me money. Yeah, mid-tier.
I think that's a pretty risky play. I know, a little bit of a risky play.
Very risky play. But all right. I don't need him to play well. I'm not looking for him to play well. I'm just timing the market here. It's down. It's a $40 Prism Silver PSA 10 for a guy that I think will be a starting quarterback next year. That's going to go up. Mid-tier, Darius Garland, 2019.
You think they're going to keep him?
If they don't, then whoever he goes to, he's going to start at.
No.
He's going to be a starting quarterback in the league again. You don't think Mac Jones is going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL again?
Okay, maybe.
I think he will. All I need for him is to start a game. That $40 card will not stay at $40.
Okay.
I'm not going to be stuck holding it, and I'm not looking for him to perform well. Not my favorite pick of all time, but I'm picking it. Give me 5 of them. Give me 5 of them.
Come on.
Darius Garland, 2019 Prism Silver PSA 10 for my mid-tier. I want 5 of these as well. Down 32% the last 30 days. And the last 30 days are when DG's been blooming. He's shooting he's struggling from the three-point line, but he's averaging 21, 3, and 6. He's gonna figure out that jump shot from behind the arc. He's got an effortless jump shot that he can get off. He's got limitless range. He can get it off at any time he wants. We've been talking with Gary a lot lately about when we're going to see DG kind of take the next step to become an elite guard. He's got all the tools. Great playmaker, scores at all 3 levels, can play some defense, good team guy, good locker room guy, works hard. He's got all the skills, but we talked about potentially needing Donovan Mitchell to move out of the way. Even if Donovan Mitchell doesn't leave soon, I think this card goes up. The last sale for this 2019 Prism Silver PSA 10, $77. We're talking about a PSA Prism Silver PSA 10 for an all-star, $77. And someone that I think is next up in the league as a top guard, an elite guard. So give me 5 of these. I think this card is going to go way up over the next 12 months at some point. We got markers for DG. We got markers for the Cavaliers that are improving. Give me 5 of them. High end. This one's a no-brainer for me. Joe Burrow, 2020 Optic Hollow, down 15% the last 30 days. It's $375 right now, which is an all-time low. Very liquid card in a pop count of 1,400. I'm buying this now, and I'm selling again. NFL hype cycle. I think this is about as safe as you can get for a Joe Burrow print. / if you're looking to invest in a quarterback and wait for the NFL hype cycle to return. Lefty didn't like the Mac Jones pick, and I'm okay. I'm living with that. I'm willing to eat that one, but I think that it's going to make me money. The other 2 I feel very solid about. Thoughts overall, Lefty?
No, I think the Darius Garland play is money. I love that.
$77, dude.
Yeah, that's so good, man. That's so good. And we've talked about how Paul talked about a couple weeks ago where he bought the Kaboom, and he talked about that's the right Darius Garland card. I don't think this is the wrong Darius Garland card. And Darius Garland is worth an investment. And if he's at $77, that's Immanuel Quickley level.
Right.
And we're talking about this Immanuel Quickley card being like something worth buying. Garland is a starter. He's not a 6th man.
He's an all-star.
Yeah, this is crazy undervalued. So, I mean, it's as hard as I've been beating the drum on Immanuel Quickley, you should be beating it just as hard for Darius Garland. You know, this is crazy. Why are these cards so low? Under $100? Crazy.
I have no idea. Ridiculous price point there. I think that's going to go a big time and be a winner for me. Speaking of winner.
Oh, by the way, I also just bought this Burrow card. I bought a raw version of it yesterday. So I love it. So also,
is it playing a grade?
My plan is to grade it. I looked at the centering. I was like, this looks like a good card. I got it from a guy for like $1.50. So I was like, this is sick. I bought it in person too. So I was like, hey, what do you got on this Joe Burrow? He's like, I don't $1.50. I was like, okay, see ya. So
yeah, Cardmaker 20 says they picked up a Darius Garland Optic Hollow for $50 last night. I'm assuming they're referencing a PSA 10 there. Man, I guess this whole market's down right now, but if it is, we might have to move some cash flow because I'm telling you, this is going to be a guy that's killing it within the next couple of years, and the valuation for him right now is just scary low. It feels like so. Might have to take a look at adding DG and moving him up a little bit on our basketball rankings at nooffseason.com, which have just recently been updated, as well as our football rankings. So head over to nooffseason.com.
$49.
Dude.
Optic Hollow PSA 10, $49.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at moving some of these cards, these specific cards up for DG over at nooffseason.com. That's my picks for this week's 1K budget builder. With that, we're gonna roll right into our winner of the week. We're 2 for 5, not too hot, but like I mentioned, guys, I want you to keep in mind that if you have the opportunity to bet same day on these guys, you should be looking at alt props. If you're trying to mitigate risk, if you're just doing it for fun to have fun watching the game, and you want high odds, you want high upside, high risk, that's fine. But you should be looking at alt props, particularly for NFL and basketball guys. You have their lines set. And Vegas is good at what they do. They're very good at what they do. The lines are not always, but often very, very accurate. You want to be finding these lines and comparing them to season-long trends for these players. For example, if you see that This is a hypothetical completely, taking numbers off the top of my head. If you see that next week Patrick Mahomes' passing line is at 238.5, go look at his last 15 games and see how many games he's had less than 238 yards and compare that relative to the defense he's playing and see if you can get him at over 200 yards for minus 200, minus 230, something like that, and compile a couple of legs like that, and you've built yourself a really strong low-risk play that still gives you decent upside. However, I can't always pick these because I'm betting the day before, or I'm betting several days before. It's not 4 hours before the game when those props are live. With that being said, let's hop into my winner of the week this week, because I do feel like it's still a pretty strong one. We are going with the Texans on the road at the Titans this Sunday, plus 118. So they are not favorites against a very poor Titans team. I know the Titans just came off a ridiculous win, a game that they should not have won. Back-to-back fumbles, went down by 2 scores with less than, I believe, 3 minutes left, and became the first team to win after being down 2 scores with less than 3 minutes in roughly 700 NFL games. 700 NFL 2-score games with less than 3 minutes left. So
and it was
crazy
awesome.
stat there, but what'd you say?
And it was awesome.
It was awesome. It was a great game to watch, but I think it used a lot of energy for those Titans. And like you mentioned, CJ Stroud's coming off a bad game that I don't think he'll repeat. The Titans' passing defense is roughly second to last in the entire league. That I would say roughly because that number kind of changes depending on which metrics you're using and which website you're looking at. But second to last in passing defense, either way, bottom of the barrel. Rookie Titans quarterback and Will Levis, he snuck away with a lucky win against the Dolphins. He looked pretty good late in the fourth, but overall, you can tell he's still trying to get his feet wet. I think CJ Stroud is light years ahead of him in terms of development. And the Texans are still fighting for a good playoff spot. So I think all these games are important for the Texans. They want to finish out strong. They want to play the weakest person that they can play once they get into the playoffs. So I've got the Texans at plus 118 against the Titans.
Well, let me just tell you this. This is a game that I cannot wait to watch. If you would have told me earlier this year, week 14 or 15 or whatever it is, you're going to love to watch the Titans versus the Texans. I was going to be like, no way am I going to be watching that. But I have loved watching the Texans. CJ Stroud has made me a Texans fan. You know, like by the way, shout out to my actual team, Cleveland Browns, Joe freaking Flacco. Let's go, everyone. Holy crap, that dude's a baller. Anyway, give Joe Flacco an MVP again. Come on. Anyway, back to the Texans-Titans play. I think CJ Stroud is one of the most likable players in the NFL right now. He's well-studied. He's well-spoken. He plays football the right way. Like he's a beast on the field. He's just like everything you want in a quarterback. He is. And he's in a franchise that has, like we've talked about the Thunder having just incredible assets and Sam Presti just like collecting assets like crazy. The Texans have a ton of assets too. And so it's not exactly the same in football, but the Texans have positioned themselves well to be a absolutely crazy team in the next 5 years. If they make the right decisions, if they, hot take, the running back for the 2025 Texans is on the field in this game. It's just on the other team. Wouldn't that be crazy? Derrick Henry getting back in Houston.
You lost me for a second. Yeah, Derrick Henry's definitely getting moved soon.
Texans, Derrick Henry, CJ Stroud, freaking a healthy Tank Dell. Holy crap, that team would be crazy. But anyway, I'm so excited for this game. I think CJ Stroud, we've talked about him earlier in this podcast. So if you guys are just tuning in, we did talk about my CJ Stroud play and how I believe in him, even in the short term. His autos and things are not going to come out for several more months. We know how the Panini and all of the branded NFL quarterback stuff doesn't come out till way after it's supposed to. And Paul's done a good job of articulating that over the last couple of weeks. But I think CJ Stroud is still a guy that I'm willing to risk on when not all the cards are out there. I think it would take a specific dude, and CJ Stroud is that dude. So I think you can still make money getting into CJ Stroud. So that's my correlating sports card play of the week. I think the card that I'm actually going to tell you to invest in which because we talk about card specific, I still think you could make money on this 470-yard 5-touchdown play. Now, that's a risky play. And I know Paul's going to, be like, no, but I think you can make money on this card. I think it goes to at least $25, $30 when this team is in the playoffs, and you can get it for $10 right now. So,
yeah, good stuff there, Lefty. And I think something to make point of that you mentioned is like, you're aware that these cards are going to be devalued when all these new prints come out. That's why you're making the play now to know that you can move back into cash flow for a riskier play before those cards come out. And then at that point, you can wait a couple months for the valuation of the newer prints to drop, and you can buy back in on a serious dip for CJ Stroud. So I love where your head's at there.
And another guy that we have not talked about at all, because he hardly has any cards out there ever, is Tommy DeVito. Connor, Tommy DeVito. He's doing some crazy stuff.
He sure is.
He doesn't have any cards out there that I'm willing to invest in right now, but that guy at least deserves for his name to be on this podcast because he's doing some crazy stuff. He's got Sage rookie cards and a Leaf, or he's got 2 Sage cards and all I can see is the Sage cards, which is crazy that this card is the one that we have for Tommy DeVito right now. Because he could legit play himself into a Giants starting role next year. Like I think they're still going to have a quarterback discussion. Like Tommy DeVito's played really well.
I saw a stat that I think it was either 3-1 or 4-1. He's one of the first quarterbacks to have to start off either 3-1 or 4-1 as a starter on a new team. So he's definitely been playing well.
Long term, he reminds me of Baker Mayfield. I think that's the kind of player that DeVito is. So I'm not saying that he's, don't go snipe every one of these Sage cards because the selling markers are just not going to be there this year for him. The selling marker would have been when he just beat somebody on Monday Night Football last week, and you don't buy now. But I'm saying he just deserves to be mentioned. So.
Good stuff there. Let's go ahead and roll into our audience Q&A. We got some good questions that were asked throughout the show, and we're going to give you guys some feedback here. Kicking things off with Justin Stewart. I've got several of the Wembanyama RPS cards and haven't sent them off to grading yet. Do you think just holding these for the long haul would be worth doing, seeing it's the first look card? Thoughts here, Lefty?
I think Wemby's market is going to continue to get confusing, and it's going to be, people are going to be looking for graded stuff. I think, Justin, do you think just holding these for the long haul would be worth doing, seeing it's the first look card? Yeah, probably. I mean, I think if you're going to hold something long-term, and we talk about short-term holds and cash flow a lot, but if there is a player that's probably worth investing in the long-term, especially if you've already made good money on his cards and you can afford for a free hold, we talk about, Chad talks about free holds a lot, where he's made all of his money and, he's keeping one in his vault because it's there for free. Yeah, the years down the line, I think Wemby is going to have he's going to be a crazy dude in the NBA for a long time. So, yeah, I think that's fine.
Yep.
Not my favorite move I've ever made, but at the same time, I think it's fine.
Yeah, you mentioned cash flow. As long as he's got the cash flow, if he wants to hang tight to see if Wembanyama is going to turn into the next LeBron James of the league, then,
Yeah, I mean, if you have it for free, then if you don't, if you've already made all your money on him, then just put one in the vault and just see what happens.
Good stuff. We got another question from Justin Stewart. We talked to Elly De La Cruz earlier in the show. Says, another question while you're talking, Elly. I have not understood why there has not been more hype for Spencer Steer from the Reds. Played incredibly well his rookie year and almost made Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
thoughts on Spencer Steer here, Lefty, and why there's such a discrepancy between him and Elly's card markets?
Well, I like Spencer Steer. First off, he's a guy that I actually have on my fantasy Dynasty Baseball League, which I take very seriously. Have not talked much about that on this show, but he logged a 118 WRC plus in the majors, and it got overshadowed quite heavily by Elly De La Cruz. I think Spencer Steer is probably the more consistent player, logging at 271 in 156 games and 665 plate appearances last year. I mean, that's a bona fide above average major leaguer. I don't think he's going to blow you away with what you see, but he could have a pretty good rise. He's also a guy that's already in the major leagues, which is not going to make our list and is not going to be something that we talk about regularly. But if you are still invested in young MLB players, I think this is a guy that you're still going to be able to make some money on.
Cool. Good stuff there, Lefty. Up next, we got Alexander Ortiz. Question, with John Morant's season debut coming up, what is the strategy to get the most out of his return, or do we hold until another sell point? Lefty, I'm going to give my thoughts here. Then
you definitely have already been researching this, so give it to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna pull up his Prism Silver for you, Alex, as to use as an example. We talk Prism Silvers a lot here, and I think that it's a good baseline indicator to look at a player. I feel like it reflects guys' card markets very frequently. It's almost like a market pulse in itself. So, let me pull this up. I apologize. Give me just 1 second. All right, John Morant, 2019 Prism Silver. Over the last 60 days, we're down 10%. Last sale, $481. So it's been pretty stagnant in terms of pricing since I pitched it a couple weeks ago on a deep dive with Lefty. Here's my thoughts here. I liked the idea of buying this, and I did in the 1K budget builder, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. I like buying this because I felt like this is a $1,200 card. Between $1,000 and $1,500 card. You look at historical data for this card. I mean, $481 for this card right now is a steal. We've seen what John Morant can do on the floor. It's not a matter of how good of a player he is, right? It's a matter of what he does off the floor. So for me, even though it's off floor stuff, I don't want to risk anything. I'm not trying to risk anything that has to do with John Morant. I think he's going to come back, and we know he's going to play. I can tell you this with certainty. He's going to play at least a couple of weeks of basketball when he comes back before getting in trouble again. Hopefully he doesn't get in trouble. That's what we hope. We want to see a generational talent like Ja with great floor awareness and incredible bounce. We want to see him play night in and night out. But I'm not willing to risk to see in a year from now if he doesn't get in trouble again, because obviously he's got some stuff going on, So I think the play here is to already obviously have this in your inventory and be ready to list within the first couple of weeks of him returning. He's going to have a couple blow-up performances, and people are going to be like, oh, crap. John Morant's still potentially a top 10 player in the league. Oh, man, we've been missing him. He's going to have highlight plays. He's going to have all these things. So maybe list is like a 7-day auction within a week after him returning to kind of just, once he's back in the news, once he's back on SportsCenter, once he's back putting up 30-point, 10 assists, double-doubles, things like that. I think we're going to see this card climb drastically. I mean, back in, like I said, I think Prism Silvers do a really good job of mirroring the market for a lot of guys. But back in March, this was a $750 card. Back in January, this card was selling over $1,000. A lot of his market, you'll see similar trends for his cards. So I think the play is to get this listed as quickly as possible after strong performances from him, and he's back in the news, and people are like, "Oh crap, John Morant's back," and without taking on any risk from anything that he might do off the floor to get himself suspended again.
Yeah, great answer. I wouldn't necessarily add anything different. So.
I'm out of breath. I wish you would have. Up next, we got Barry Siff. Good question from Barry here. Good morning, everyone. Late to joining you. Thanks for joining us as always, Barry. 2 questions. Is it worth getting the tops now of Bronny's debut? Bronny James, that is. Also, thoughts on Bowman Chrome Draft Hobby Box released yesterday. Lefty, I'm going to let you take both of these, brother.
Yeah, Bowman Draft Chrome Hobby Boxes definitely is a fun rip. We never recommend buying wax. We would always recommend buying singles. But it is a fun rip and can get a pretty explosive amount of high dollar cards in there. But you have to remind yourself, buying wax, if you are not, if you're ripping it, is gambling. If you are, and sometimes it's smart gambling, like you're still like rolling the dice and a little bit in your favor with the draft card, but it's with the draft box, but it's still, you don't know what you're getting in there. I'd rather buy a single online and know what I'm getting. For instance, I didn't buy any draft boxes because I just want to go buy Wyatt Langford. I don't want to buy a draft box hoping I get a Wyatt Langford. But if you're going to buy the wax and sell it, yes, Draft Chrome Hobby Box is still going to go up over the next 6 months. So Topps Now Bronny card. Yes, I did buy 20 of this Topps Now Bronny card of him scoring his first points, not because I think he's going to be LeBron James or the next LeBron James, but he's LeBron James' son, and people will believe in that hype. So Bronny James' first USC card that's going to be with me in the next 5 to 10 days. I'm going to send it to SGC and get those back to the market as quick as I can. Yes, sir. That's cash money. So I believe that Bronny James is going to be one of my Victor Wembanyama plays where I plant a flag and say, I'm going to invest in this guy over and over and over. And he's not going to be as good as Victor Wembanyama, but his market is going to be just as marketed. And he's going to be on ESPN, and he's going to be in the NBA draft, and he's going to be on TV, and he's going to be in ads, and he's going to be on Subway commercials and all sorts of crazy crap. So yes, Bronny James is still worth investing in my opinion.
Great answer there, Lefty Berry. Hope that helped you, sir. Up next, Card Banker 20. Want your take on a couple NBA flyers, Coby White and Shaedon Sharpe. Now that Coby is playing more and he is going off and will continue to get opportunities, and now that Anthony Simons is back, he believes that Shaedon Sharpe could see a jump. All right.
Yeah, you go here.
I got you. Coby White. So we've talked about, I think Paul pitched Coby White as a sell a couple weeks ago. For a couple specific cards that saw serious jump. Or I'm sorry, it was Chad. I apologize. It was Chad. He pitched Coby White as a sell a couple weeks ago. Chad, per usual, did some fantastic research. Saw a guy that people weren't really paying attention to that kind of spiked real quick and made a great point to get cards sold to make good profits here. I don't necessarily believe in Coby White long term, just because I think we've seen there's a reason he wasn't getting any playing time at all, really, over the last couple of years with DeRozan and Zach LaVine. And now that things are kind of in shambles over in Chicago, they're like, oh, crap, DeMar DeRozan's hurt or in and out of games. Zach LaVine's hurt. Both these guys are talking about getting traded. They're giving Coby White some time, I'm assuming, because both of those guys are on the block and they know they might need him if they move him. So I don't love him still as a flyer pick just because I don't know how much upside he has in the league unless he gets traded. If he gets traded, I could see him filling in somewhere in that six-man role, kind of like that Jamal Crawford type spot where he just comes in to just explode with buckets. Another guy I just love guys. I mentioned this a lot. I love guys that can score on all three levels. Coby White can do that. Really solid finishing with both hands around the rim. Shoots the ball well from the mid-range and has good range from three. In terms of investing in him, I don't know that there's a lot of cards that I love picking for Coby White right now, although his 2019 Optic Holo and PSA 10 is down 68% the last 30 days. Which is very contradictory to how he's been playing. If you take a look at his last 5 games, we're talking 27 points, 33 points, 24 points, 19 points, 31 points. So very strong showing for Coby White. Despite that, the last 30 days, this Optic Holo is down 68% in PSA 10. Last sale just $8. So if you're going to take a flyer pick, obviously you're only investing kind of $10 to $15 range probably for this card. Or if you can snipe one even cheaper, obviously you're in a really good spot. And it's undervalued at the moment, but I don't know how many sell markers you're going to have for Shaedon or for Coby White necessarily there. I think if you're, especially with flyers, I think the key with these flyers to mitigate risk is to have sell markers ready when you're picking these cards. Lefty does a really good job of it, and so does Chad when they explain their picks in the deep dives as well as on the Monday show. So I think personally, I'm probably fading Coby White. Do you have any thoughts here, Lefty?
I'm fading both of these plays. I think there's just better players. I think, if you want to risk in this scenario, I am under the impression that we are building you guys up to be smart investors. So you're going to make your own plays rather than plays that you're not just,
right.
We want you to be going from
it's a template,
baby drinking milk to a baby drinking baby food to eventually you're eating your own, you're eating steak, and we're giving you guys templates so that you can make your own plays. And if you feel confident about this being a play for you, and if you see objective sell markers and a bunch of other stuff, then okay. And I think they are flyers, both of these guys, because White has had his day in the hobby is behind him, I believe. But also Sharpe, Connor's talked about how Sharpe is in there with a ton of dudes that are fighting for the same position, and Sharpe is not looking like the player that we thought was going to come out of the NBA draft. In a redraft right now, Sharpe would not go as high as he did previously.
Yeah, totally agree. And Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
fading both of these plays.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Sharpe too. I think Lefty's right on the fade on both of them. I think Coby White honestly might be the better pick here, just because
Yeah,
no
agreed.
one cares about Portland right now with Damian Lillard gone. Nobody. Shaedon Sharpe's got a lot of bounce. Like, he's got some cool, flashy tangibles, but he's not the guy over there.
Mom, she probably cares.
I don't know that reference. Oh, she does. That's a good point.
Said nobody.
You're right. That's a good point. She probably does, but outside of that, no one cares about the Portland Trailblazers. Shaedon Sharpe's got a lot of good, like, intangible stuff to him, but
that's a bad joke. I apologize.
No, that's okay. No worries. No worries. It just took me a second to follow.
I don't get the reference.
He's like the third or fourth option on an awful team right now. So, what direction is that franchise going? What are the sell markers for him? I'm fading Shaedon Sharpe too. Up next, we got a question for Lefty, once again from Card Banker. Lefty, would you grade any of these rookie optic base cards? I can't pronounce all of these, so you have to, Lefty.
Othman, Pedri, Foden, Martinelli, Vinicius Jr., and Chisia. I'll just go down the list here. Optic base. Let's see. Yes. No. Yes. No. Yes. No. There you go.
Will you follow that back up with names so I can follow a little bit better?
Oh, sorry. Othman, yes. Pedri, no. Foden, yes. Martinelli, no. Vinicius Jr., yes. And Chisia, no.
Good stuff there. Lefty, what are some of your I just don't know these names well enough here, but what are some of the, like, what's the differentiation between these guys that's making you want to grade versus not grade some of them?
Yeah, Osimhen will be getting potentially the highest transfer of a English Premier League player ever this season, potentially going to be striker at Chelsea. Pedri, I think the best of Pedri is behind him, unless we see a potential Spain World Cup run in the future, or him just go bananas and finally become the player that they think he's going to be. But I think the best days are behind him for Pedri. Foden, he's a classic in Manchester City, and he grew up in Manchester City on a team that's probably the best in the world. So I figure that there's still a pretty good market for him there. Martinelli, I just don't know enough, to be honest. Vinicius Jr. is a player that's on Real Madrid and plays for Brazil, has a ton of markers, scores a ton of goals. Going to be a guy that people still invest in, and Chisia, I just don't know enough as well there. So if you're asking just off the top of my head, which most of these questions, we like to prepare answers, but like on the live show, I haven't prepared these answers beforehand. So like when you're asking us questions, we're giving you the straight off the dome answers. Now, Martinelli and Chisia could have like really good sell markers and stuff like that. I just haven't looked into it as well as I should have. You know, like if this was a show, if this was like a deep dive question at the beginning, or if it was on the Overflow show, I would have looked into this more and to see where the prices of these were selling at.
Yeah, good answer there still, Lefty, and good question, Card Banker. If you guys are interested in getting super in-depth answers from Chad, Lefty, and Paul on the Overflow show that will come out each Friday, you can have personalized sports card investment advice. Head over to nooffseason.com. You can get a free 30-day trial. Yeah, definitely check that out if you're looking to get more extensive responses where the guys have time to really build up their answers and give you as much value as possible there. Rounding off the show, we got Rusty Imagart. I don't know if it's Imagart or Imagart. Rusty, please correct me in the chat.
I think it's Imagart.
Imagart. Rusty says after losing to the Giants, I should say, is Jordan Love still a good short-term flip? Lefty, curious to your thoughts here. I've got my own opinion, but go ahead and roll.
Man, literally the recommendation that me and Chad had on Monday's show, Monday night just got literally destroyed because he lost to a team that he should not have lost to. You know, like I also took a prop on him over 230 yards, and he just missed that. So, I wanted to believe in Jordan Love, and he just made me mad by losing to the Giants. Mr. DeVito got him. And so I still think he's probably a good short-term flip. I still think he wins several of the next 3 weeks. So I think you're probably going to be okay. I think most people look at this as a fluke loss, and the Giants just, getting lucky. I think it's a blip on the radar rather than something that we expect from the Packers going forward.
Lefty, I agree with most of your analysis there, but I actually think that I don't know in terms of if Rusty's referring to buying him based off that loss, I don't know that I love it, and here's why. And I'm only saying this, like you mentioned, Lefty, like I'm only saying this because I actually would have an answer prepared because I've been writing about Jordan Love the last few days. So here's why I don't love buying him right now. He has I'm about to read off a ton of cards for you, Rusty. These are only PSA 10s, and this is only 30-day data/data. You're welcome, Lefty. Jordan Love, 2020 Select Club Level Silver PSA 10, up 400%. Jordan Love, 2020 Chronicles Gridiron Kings, up 263%. Jordan Love, 2020 Mosaic NFL Debut PSA 10, 242%. Mosaic Silver, 225. Optic Hollow, 210. Prism Blue Wave out of 199, 197%. Select Club Level, 170%. And the list goes on. That game has not seen us have his market drop enough for me to feel comfortable trying to buy back on him because I don't know how much this, with how high the growth is for all those cards, I don't know that we can see that much more of a spike from what he has left to give in this regular season. I think you got to wait for him to drop back down to buy back in and then look to make plays there if you're trying to flip Jordan Love. But that's just my 2 cents.
Sounds good.
I think that's going to do it for us in terms of our Q&A. Lefty bringing it strong per usual. Guys, we got another deep dive at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 7:30 p.m. Eastern with Dr. Crack Chad Gill. Lefty, you got any closing thoughts for today's show?
No, I thought that you did. Connor, I just want to point out that you have leveled up quite a bit in the months that you've been working with us here. Being so nervous, not even want to be on a show. And now you're giving full on advice for questions that are coming at you off the dome. So congrats, man. Like, you're working really hard. Love having you on the team. And thank you for all the love and the live chat. Justin Stewart, thanks for compliment. Knowing your knowledge is wild. I finally was able to figure out all this sports knowledge and use it for good. So I appreciate you guys. And one more time, Banker, thanks for sending us some cards, and thanks for getting Connor a Rui Hachimura PSA 10 to start his
bag.
Get a nice little shot in the arm for his starting of his portfolio. So,
yep, I'm going to echo everything that Kendall the Lefty McKee says there. Guys, we'll be back next Wednesday morning at the same time. Me and Lefty going to bring it strong, give you that update on the 1K budget builder. Lefty, I had an absolute blast as always, my friend. That's going to do it for us for now. We will go ahead and let Paul take things away and see y'all next week, my friends.
Great job on today's show, Lefty and Connor. Everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening. I'm Paul Hickey with nooffseason.com. Don't forget to get your free 30-day trial today at nooffseason.com to help you build your sports card investment portfolio and take lessons at Sports Card School. Go to sportscardschool.com. Text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727 to get your buy alerts and your sell alerts. Text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727. That's 1-833-992-5727. Text sports cards there to get your buy alerts and sell alerts to crystallize your profits. We would love it if you give us a positive review on Apple or Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Paul Hickey and connect with us on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy. Thanks for being part of the nooffseason.com family. Have a great day.